All right. So, hello everyone. My name is Fawn Walker Montgomery, and I'm the CEO and co-founder for Take Action Advocacy Group, or TAG for short, as we call it. And TAG has been around 11 and a half years now, and our mission and purpose is to help people who live in small Black communities recognize their power. Our primary focus is Black liberation, and we also help other marginalized groups as well. So we've been around for 11 and a half years. We do a lot of our work in small Black communities. Our work started in the greater Pittsburgh area we affectionately call the Mon Valley. So it's outside of the bigger city of Pittsburgh. That's what we do a lot of our work. The way we take action, we have programming. One is our chapter program, which we're going to have some of our members on today. And then we also do trainings and political education as well. We have a youth chapter and an adult chapter, and then we support various social justice initiatives. And we do like conceptual analysis to figure out where we're going to focus. And this year, we actually focused a lot on environmental justice, as well as police accountability, and a lot of that comes from the people. So the community guides what we work on. So that's a little bit about TAG. I always like to do that in the beginning because I know new people watch the podcast because our podcasts stay up. So the people who may not know who we are, a little about what we do. So I'm the CEO and co-founder, and today I'm excited because I get to speak with our organizer, Tiffany. She's going to come on in a minute, and then our chapter members as well. Courtney is going to come on as well. So I'm excited to bring on Tiffany. So I'm going to bring on Tiffany now. All right, here we go. Thank you for joining us, Tiffany. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I am
Yes.
resting and resisting.
Yes. Rest is important. It is important.
Yes, it is. So I introduced myself to the folks. So you can introduce yourself to the people and a little bit about yourself, your background. Kind of why you're doing this work. And I know people have seen you on our social media page, and but I don't think they've really ever
Yeah.
heard from you. So introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Carter. My background, I did a lot of community work, so the community organizing came kind of second nature to me.
Hmm.
Prior to this, I was a community health worker. Prior to that, I was a therapeutic support staff. So everything that I've done has always been kind of community driven. Um, I come from a home. My dad is a pastor and has been for a long time. He is a big pivotal person in the community where he lives. Um, and I feel like that has just rubbed off on me, and I have become someone that's engrossed in the community and doing what's best for the community and not just coming in and being like, hey, I'm going to fix all your problems. I actually have taken the time to sit back and take in the things that communities say are the problem and been able to work on that. Um, I feel like I do this work um, for my ancestors. My dad is from Cleveland, Mississippi, where the young man was just hung at Delta State University. And so I do this for the times that like my dad had to be silenced and couldn't speak up for himself, or the times that my grandmother wasn't able to speak up for her kids because she was black and they lived in a white area. So I do this because it feels good to me. It
Hmm.
feels like this is where I'm supposed to be. Um, so I feel like every time I get a little closer to doing this work,
Hmm.
I feel closer to like my grandmother. I feel closer to my dad. Like my dad's still here, and so
Yeah.
I'm able to have those hard conversations with my dad now that I have done this work and been able to actually have conversations when it comes to race, and then when it comes to how being black looks differently when you go to different places.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's real meaningful for me to do this work because, again, like I said, it's something that I feel connects me to my grandmother, my grandfather, and those
Mm-hmm.
that came before them. So I feel like it's something in me that is, I've become like my ancestors' wildest dreams,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Sure.
speak, and it feels good to me. It feels like that is the purpose behind everything that I've done, and I've taken on, I don't want to say some resilience, but I've taken on things that I feel like my grandmother wouldn't have been able to speak on, or things that my dad wasn't able to speak on when he was my age, and things that my grandfather wasn't able to speak on because he had to just put food on the table and things of that nature. So it feels good for me to do this work because I'm able to channel that into my work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been at TAG for a year now.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! um, and it was an amazing year. And I say that because everything that we did in the beginning of the year
Mm-hmm.
built on top of what we kept doing. So we never lost momentum in what we were doing because it all started from the beginning of the year and it just built on top of each other. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like we ever lost focus or ever drifted to do something else because everything built on the last thing that we did. So it was
Mm-hmm.
amazing to see how we went from going to a conference down in New Orleans based in EJ to doing our own work in EJ spaces up here in the Mon Valley area, the greater Pittsburgh area. It was amazing to see how all of our work was intersecting, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a great year to see how far we were able to take our thoughts from the beginning of the year and watch them turn into actual programs, watch them turn into actual like our chapters are also doing the work, you know what I mean? So it
Mm-hmm.
was amazing to see those things grow from what looks like a mustard seed into like these beautiful flourishing
Mm-hmm.
programs that we have. And I think that that was something that I really loved, and I loved when I came into this space. I got to be my most authentic self,
Mm-hmm.
and that's coming from a black suburban girl who was always told, "You're too loud, um you're doing too much, tone it down." um I'm in a space where I'm accepted and I don't have to ask for that acceptance. I don't have to tailor anything about myself to be accepted in that space. And so that meant a lot to me because I didn't have to tone down myself because I was going into a room. I didn't have to fix how I spoke because I was in a room. I was again able to be my most authentic self, and that felt good because I think we suppress that a lot when we are in work settings or in a professional setting
Mm-hmm.
without knowing it. And I'm able to still be professional and still be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's something that like I really, really, really loved about coming on with Tag was
Mm-hmm.
I was just accepted for who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, we have a lot of things going on at Tag.
Yes.
Me and Fawn are always boots on the ground. So,
Yeah, we
like,
put the B in the boots on the ground.
yes, yes, we definitely be boots on the
Yeah.
ground.
What was your and thank you for your transparency and your honesty about your connection into why you do the work and your wonderful words about tag and the environment that myself and Soleil have created because we grew up in these small communities as well, and we wanted to make sure that people didn't feel that way.
Yeah,
We want people to speak up. We don't do the respectability politics. I don't care how you say it, but say it,
you're right.
even if your voice is shaking. So it makes me feel good, that you that you felt that. And we've done a lot, like you said, over the last year. What kind of stands out to you? A lot stands out for me. Definitely the chapters
Mhm.
and our chapter members and all the work that they've continued to do in their communities. Courtney beyond, and she, was talking about the work she's doing with Q's Cares, and you know, Mayor Nesby, the former, mayor of Duquesne, the work that she's doing. So when I see stuff like that, even the people we help in the complaint program continue to work, like Felicia, who we affectionately call D Rock, and the great work that she's doing with Pittsburgh Black Pride, that gives me joy.
Mhm.
Seeing people continue that work.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that one of our unique things that we have is our complaint program. And most
Hmm.
people will probably run away from the complaint program when they see it. But I feel like we become a voice for the voiceless. And when people are really lost and don't know which way to turn when it
Hmm.
comes to whatever issue that they're dealing with, um, we never make their issue seem minuscule or make it
Hmm.
seem like, hey, it's no big deal. We take whatever people feel like their issues are, and we give them that attention, and we give them advocacy plans. We teach them how to do things on their own. And so I think that's like one of the biggest things that give me joy is, like you said, with D Rock, that was something that she brought to us as a complaint,
Hmm.
but she's also been able to maneuver that complaint that she had in her own capacity. She's able to advocate for herself. And then when she does need assistance in advocating, she has no problem with coming back to the tag and saying, hey, can you guys help me with this, that, and the third? Or, hey, I'm not understanding this. Can we sit down and have a conversation about that? And I think that us having that open door with the people that come to us for assistance is what gives me a lot of joy, because it's something that you don't see anywhere else. Like, a lot of times it's just like, hey, these people came, let's give them this help and
Hmm.
keep it moving. We're going to give them whatever we have that we think is going to fix their problem
Hmm.
and send them on their way. Whereas we don't do that. We're sitting here, we're listening to you as to see what you really want
Hmm.
from this issue. Like, where do you see it going? And I think that us having those personal type feels when it comes to how we advocate for each other and advocate for the people that come through our complaint program, I think that that is what fuels me. So, like, again, the complaint program, where most people are like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I actually love the complaint program, um, because it gives me a chance to sit back and actually deal with people's issues that they've brought to us how
Hmm.
they want to, and not just how I feel like they should be handled. And I think that's something that's humbling too, because everything isn't about me.
Hmm.
Nothing in this work is about what I want. And I
Hmm.
think that that's another amazing thing that I've learned in this space is there's always 100 ways to fix an issue. It's never just here's the cookie cutter um fixing that for this issue, and this is what we're going to do for that. I love that we ask people what do they want to
Hmm.
see once we're able to leave them on their own. How do you see this issue being resolved,
Hmm.
and what do you want us to do for you if we're helping you with this issue? So I
Hmm.
love that. I love the complaint program.
And just to let the listeners know, or listeners and viewers, the complaint program, we call that our social work abolition. It's one of our core programs. It's been around since we started. So people call and they get help with any particular social justice issue they have going on. A majority is police violence. Sometimes it's like violence with their neighbor, like racial violence. It could be the school. They could just have a question. They could just have been arrested and they need to know, like, how do I go through the system? Like, I was arrested unjustly. How do I navigate the system? Sometimes we can help with to pay legal fees or fines if we have financial capacity at that time. But we have done things like that in the past for people, and people just call us, they email, and then we
Hmm.
meet with them. I'm looking forward to the program growing into next year, um, because Tiffany is going to take more of a role in it. And I know people will call and want to talk to phone and want to talk to phone. But TAG is a team of people,
Yes.
not just myself. So you'll be hearing a lot more from Tiffany. And then other people, we have interns as well. So, I'm not an island. I have a great team at TAG. I'm constantly saying that to folks. I'm constantly putting that, on our social media. So, why I love it. I love people wanting to talk to me.
Yes.
It's more of a team thing. So, I'm looking forward to that program kind of growing, into 2026. And um, some other things that kind of stand out to me this year is definitely the environmental justice work that we did. We went to the conference and we had the youth with us, and they were able to interview people and talk about environmental and climate justice. And the area that we live in is a hotspot for that because of the steel
Mhm.
mill. And the fact that people can't breathe air, drink the water has been a regular thing for us. So I really like the work we did there, especially with the Clinton crisis response
I love
that we
that.
were able to do when the steel mill exploded. There was an explosion, and we responded by giving out air and water filters. We got donations from the community, from some people to do that. So that was really good. I love the political education that we did, like around Black August,
Hmm.
and the organizing work that we're doing with the Crawford Village Tenant Council. So when we're helping people find their voice and advocate for themselves, is like, to me, that's our superpower.
Yes.
So I love when we were kind of able to do that. And I do have a really good update about the police work that we're doing with the McKeesport Police Advocacy. We always want to celebrate our wins, whether they be small or big. And we
Yes.
did file a lawsuit against them with the ACLU's help in 2020. The officer was shot, and the police responded. The officer survived, but the police responded by like terrorizing us for a week. The McKeesport police called in about 10 departments,
Mm.
and the lawsuit was filed, and it's been about 2.5 years. But they did come to some kind of an agreement, and we got some wins out of that. They have to put on their website a process to file a complaint. So now
Okay.
people be able to file a complaint on the website, which is good because the process now is you have to go to them, talk to them.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to get it notarized. So who's doing all that? And then they have to have 3 public safety meetings a year, and the
Okay.
police are going to do some trainings. And I will add that when we put the demands out, it was tag demands and community demands,
Mhm.
because we do not believe that training is going to help anything. But however, that's what the plaintiffs wanted, and we speak for the community. So we're going to take that one, and we're going to keep doing the advocacy. But that's a good news, and shout out to the ACLU for
Yes.
always supporting us with that work. And that's the third lawsuit that we have filed with the ACLU, and we've won all three of them, and they've all been. The first one was the McKeesport School Board with the Black Student Union. The second one was when they shut us out of the meeting, and we filed the Sunshine Law violation, and now this being the third one. So yeah, so that's a good update, and I'm looking forward to that kind of growing into next year. I don't know if there's anything you're kind of looking forward to for next year.
Um, I'm really looking forward to more of our EJ stuff. So
Hmm.
our environmental justice things are important to me because I think that TAG is able to show how everything intersects when it comes to
Hmm.
environmental justice. So, and the environmental justice bleeds over into the crime rate, it bleeds over into the housing crisis, it bleeds over into the food desert that we have. Like, so it's important to educate people on these things, and I think that that's something that a lot of people No, but they didn't fully see how everything was connected. So I love that we were able to show people how
Hmm.
EJ was bigger than just lead in the water or lead paint. And it's not
Hmm.
just something that you just brush off. Um, and I love that we bring education like that to communities because it opens up people's eyes, and now people are saying, hey, this isn't right. And they're again advocating for themselves because we bought them this education. So I feel like that's something that I'm very, very excited for next year.
Hmm.
um and all the work that our chapter members are doing
Hmm.
in their own
Yeah.
spaces. I love that they are all in their own spaces advocating for the things that they care about and the things that they have
Hmm.
passions for. So I love to hear those things back.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm listen, we ramped and ready for next year.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We ready to go. And we're also doing
Yeah.
some fellowships that'll kind of bleed into next year as well, with our youth and with the adults, and it'll be centered around environmental justice and all the intersections of food justice. We did do the food apartheid report that's on our website. We did that last year with Penn State and the fellowships. One of them is a partnership with Moving for Black Lives, Black Have, and then the other one is a partnership with Penn State University, Pennsylvania State University, I think they call it now. But we're really excited about those. We'll be doing a lot more fellowships, a lot more political education within fellowships.
Mhm.
In order to sustain us to the next few years we have coming up here, it's going to be within community.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure we're educating community, and letting them find that voice within themselves. So I feel like that's going to sustain us. We also do wellness sessions. Really excited about those. I really enjoyed those. We
Yes.
incorporated yoga this year into that, and sound baths and sound healing. So I'm
Mhm.
definitely looking forward to expanding our healing justice work as well.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed our wellness sessions.
Yeah, they were really helpful. Our feedback is always like there's never a space for
Mhm.
Black people to come and talk about, how race has traumatically affected them
Yeah.
in a safe space, and that's always, the kind of feedback that we get from that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I do have a statement to kind of share from Mayor Nesby, former Mayor Nesby of the city of Duquesne. She was going to come on today, but she there was a death in her family, so she's unable to join us. So she wanted to talk about the policing in the Mon Valley as a whole.
Mm.
We do talk a lot about McKeesport, but she wanted to, highlight. Well, this year we talked a lot about McKeesport. In the past, we talked about Hempstead, West Mifflin. McKeesport have been the three where a lot of our complaints kind of came from. But she wanted to point out that it's the entire Mon Valley.
Mhm.
For people who don't know, Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, is one city within Allegheny County. Allegheny County has over 100 municipalities. So that means there's over 100 different police departments. So the city of Pittsburgh has nothing to do with McKeesport, Police, Duquesne, Clerk, none of it. It's all separate. So she just wanted to highlight that there's problems with policing in the
Mhm.
Mon Valley, and that we need uniform standard operating procedures for gun violence and for policing, especially for communities like Duquesne. So that's where she was the mayor, where she was the mayor at, and she was pointing out that they're under resourced. They don't have technology. They don't have any resources, as well as there's nowhere for people to make complaints against police.
Mm.
There is the Allegheny County Police Review Board, but however, since the county is structured the way it is, you have to opt into it. So we can't make McKeesport, or we can't make Clarion. So right now, the only jurisdiction they have is Allegheny County Police. So she wanted to point that out as well, um, and how there needs to be more, accountability within the police and resources, because she did mention that a lot of her homicides are investigated by the county. And that's like not even a written thing, it just like happens. And when we first started, we were really big on helping families get justice. We have since kind of changed some of the way we do things, but um, that was one of the things that came up, and it was a lot of it was just lack of resources. Um, so they give everything to the county. Even the county is, well, I think there's like 7 to 10 detectives, and helping all these folks out. So she just wanted to, yeah, to highlight that and point that out, that there's issues with policing. I mean, it's with policing in general. Let's be clear about that. But specifically in the Mon Valley, that she said she wanted to point that out. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there definitely are issues there as well. Yeah. So is there anything else that you wanted to share, Tiffany, in regards to tag? Anything you're looking forward to? Anything that you enjoyed? And then after that, we're going to get to the portion that I call talking shit, because that's what we be doing.
No, I just look forward to all that we have coming next year. We are going to branch out. I'm saying that here we're going to
Hmm.
branch out,
Yes.
and it may be bigger than the Mon Valley,
Hmm.
Allegheny County, but
Hmm.
we are going to be going further than here. Uh,
Yes.
so get on or get lost.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely. And when we kind of rebranded to change our name from Take Action Mount Valley to Take Action Advocacy Group, that was the plan. So
Mhm.
we've done some work in Atlanta, and
Yep.
we've done work a lot of places with moving for Black Lives.
Mhm.
We'll continue. We'll continue to do that and continue to grow. We want to help Black people in small communities everywhere,
Mhm.
because we have an international lens to the work we do. So we've been definitely involved in advocating for Palestine, Congo, Haiti, Sudan. Um, I'm a part of a socialist group and for BL, so we do a lot of that work with them. So we have that international lens as well. I just want to highlight our partners. We have so many partners,
Yes.
and we wouldn't do this work without our partners. We have very strong partnerships in the work we do. All the work we do. We're part of Upstream's Environmental Justice Table. We're part of the Black Have with the Move for Black Lives. So we have some really good partners, and I really
Yeah.
value, yeah, the work that we do with them. Yeah. Cool.
I, we do.
We definitely do. So, Tiffany, you don't have to stay for this part, but if you'd like to stay for this part, you can feel free.
I'll probably stay on for a couple more minutes.
Okay.
That's okay.
Um, so there's a few things I want to talk about with this portion here, and I only call it talking shit because we just be, talking about what's going on. It's a
Mhm.
good thing, though. It's a good talking shit. um,
Good
so
trouble.
right, good trouble. The first thing is what's happening in Chicago, and I feel
Mhm.
like there's mixed viewpoints on this. Some people in Chicago are saying it is happening. People are saying it's not happening, but it's happening. Let's be clear about
Right.
that. And it's connected to Cop City, Pittsburgh, because it's a part of this plan to militarize
Mhm.
the U.S., which is the plan of the present administration. 47 told one of his workers, I think he was director of um, Department of Security, I'm not sure what particular department, but he told them to use inner cities as military training grounds for war. This is documented a few weeks ago that he said this to this man. I'm going to say that again. To use inner cities, and we all know that inner cities is code word for black, inner cities as military training grounds for war. So this is what he is telling his people to do. So then you have ICE
Mhm.
and 47 putting National Guard onto communities that they're not asking for it, that don't want it, that don't need it. You have him building cop cities around the world in black communities. So it's all connected, and the National Guard and ICE is in Chicago, and
Mhm.
they are coming to certain communities within Chicago and using this excuse that they're gang members and it's so dangerous, and they're there to get people out, and they're taking people, children, and zip tying them
Mm-hmm.
and arresting them. And let's be clear, I don't give a damn who these folks are. This it's not right. It is not right. It is not okay. They should not be doing these things. And I think it's a shame that the media is not talking about this because it's inexcusable. Just like it was inexcusable when children were in cages.
Right.
It's inexcusable. So I wanted to talk about that and bring light to that because that's happening right now
Mm-hmm.
as we speak. And you see, they went to D.C., the National Guard, and did what they did down there. So they're coming to these communities and pushing this militarizing messaging. I don't know if you've heard anything about what's happening in Chicago, but I know it's like real time over the last few days, and I wanted to make sure that I highlighted it today because it's definitely happening there. And like I was saying, that's connected to the Cop City. This Cop City discussion that has been going on for a while now. So to update everyone, there is a Cop City being built in Pittsburgh, and they are calling it a public safety training facility. But
Terrible.
it's basically a cop city. That's basically what it is. They're saying it's public safety for fire, police, and EMS. And they're going to have a pool and a wellness center, a firing range, K9 training, everything that is in most of these cop cities around the world. And they're using it to train and to further militarize our police. And a lot of the techniques that were used on us in 2020, from the knee on the neck to the rubber bullets to the mace, came
Mm.
from them training with Israeli forces and other forces in other countries.
So
So yeah, um,
terrible.
and the cop city in Atlanta was really big around that, and they're trying to do similar things around the world. There's 69 plus cop cities being built, either being built or in development at this point. With Pittsburgh, they're trying to put it in Lincoln, Limington, which is a black community, a black area, and they actually got this land in 2018. So they've known about this since 2018, and now they're saying that if they don't use the land by a certain time, they got to give it back. And they don't want to give back because they don't know what they're going to do with it, but they have to use it for public safety. But and that could be a range of things. But they're deciding to use it for this training facility, and we
Oh,
went to
not
the
a
last.
community center.
What you said?
I said not a community center because that could, that's public safety. That could help. But hey, that's
I mean,
that's
there's so many things. We have like a homeless problem. We have a housing problem. Like, like there, it could have been so many things,
hmm
but they're using it as a. And I don't even feel like they. I can't. I'm not even gonna give them an excuse. They have to recognize
right.
how they're furthering neocolonialism as well as further militarizing folks. So um, we went to the meetings. A couple other folks did. A lot of people actually spoke the last 5 to 6 meetings, and they ignored that.
hmm
The last thing they did at the standing committee meeting, they voted it through, and they're supposed to meet that following Tuesday. Then they just up and changed the meeting to Monday, which I think is a sunshine law violation. But because I signed up to speak and I got an email 2 hours before. This is 8 a.m. The meeting started at 10. That they changed the meeting date, and I didn't even see that email until later on in the day. So I'm thinking the meeting is still Tuesday. So they had the meeting Monday and they voted and it passed through. So it was political maneuvering, and now we're at the point where they're saying it passed through, and it passed through for, and I want to make sure I say the number right, 1.8 million. Yeah, I need y'all to really hear me when I say 1.8 million on a 160-acre site. And we do not need a multi-million-dollar police training facility.
At all.
I don't know who asked for this. I'm not understanding why they feel like it's a good idea. It's estimated that the whole project is going to cost 86 million.
Because we don't,
So,
we get $86 million anywhere else. But what I find weird is that
mhm,
they wanted to say, hey, we don't have any more funds to do like the stop the violence things that are in the county. You didn't
mhm,
have money for those things, but you
mhm,
have money to build a training facility
mhm.
for the harm doers, the real harm doers. Okay.
Right. Like they could have put all of those programs for stop the violence in that training facility
Yep.
or in that facility and made it for the nonprofits and the community organizations doing that. There's just so many things
Mm-hmm.
that they could have done with it. And that amount of money, and you
Right.
got people sleeping on the streets, you have people advocating, to keep these stop the violence funds. And it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't see why they feel like it's a good idea. Um, So they plan on having public forums after the master plan is done. So we're going to ask you after we already do it. Um,
Right.
so that's what their plan is, and we're going to continue to organize and advocate against it when they announce these public hearings and working on other things as well. And then the company they're using, I'm going to say their names so I can say it right: Henningsen, Durham, and Richardson (HDR). That's the planning firm they gave this $1.8 million contract to do the master plan. They have been accused in the past of wiretapping residents. And then when they did some work in Phoenix, there was a resident that alleged her communication in private Facebook groups was monitored, read, and disclosed and intercepted in real time, and otherwise wiretaps by HDR without her consent, and she filed a lawsuit against them. So why would we go into an agreement,
Right.
with this company? So there's so many things wrong with it, and it doesn't make sense to me as to why they would, even want to do that. So that's the update on the Cop City and the, what's going on in Chicago. Also wanted to bring light to Trey, and I want to make sure that I'm saying Trey Reed was murdered in Mississippi at Delta. It was Delta State University or Delta, doesn't it? Delta State University. They initially claimed he was hung on a tree, and the police said it was not foul play, it was suicide. Well, shout out to Colin Kaepernick and Trey Reed's family,
Mm-hmm.
especially Trey Reed's family, for pushing through and making sure that they're going to get justice for Trey. And Colin Kaepernick's organization paid for another autopsy that showed that he had blunt force trauma on the back of his head. So clearly, something happened because no one hangs themselves. Let's be clear about that, you all. So this was a modern day lynching,
Mm-hmm.
that occurred. So and people just aren't talking about it enough. So I want to make sure we say his name. Go ahead, Tim.
I
I
would
feel
say,
like-
so again, my dad and his three brothers,
Yep.
they grew up in Cleveland, Mississippi. And I remember I've always been very outspoken.
Hmm.
I remember as a kid when we would go down to my grandparents' house, we weren't allowed to cross the train tracks
Hmm.
at night. Like it wasn't safe for us. However, as a child that was privy to what that was really going on, I never really understood it. What I want people to understand is that Cleveland, Mississippi didn't integrate their schools until 2017 or 19, one of those years.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, they just integrated their schools within the past, you know, 10 years. Um, and so to hear like, oh no, he hung himself was like crazy to hear because it's like racism in that area is very different. Um, very outright, very upfront. So for y'all to try to like sweep it under the rug was insane to me. So
Hmm.
I was supposed to, my dad wanted me to go to Delta State to be closer to my
Mm.
grandmother. I chose not to because I said I didn't grow up in that area like that. I didn't grow up that way. So I wouldn't be able to adjust to outright racism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the only reason that I didn't go to Delta State. But Cleveland, Mississippi is very, very behind in the times. Very, um, very stuck in their ways. And so I just want to put that out there that like there are some people that are connected to Cleveland, Mississippi that do understand exactly what happened. Um, and again, shout out to Colin because
Yeah.
without him and org, you wouldn't have known anything else that happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
you would again, they would have swept it under the rug and been like, "Oh well, you know, things happen."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I love the fact that his family was able to kind of like you said push through
Yep.
and say no, this isn't what my son would have done. This isn't what my nephew
Mm-hmm.
would like,
Yeah.
pushing past the narrative that hey, this was just something that happened and wanting a deeper dive into things
Mm-hmm.
was was great to see that his family didn't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, and Cleveland, Mississippi is stuck in 1930s.
Mm.
If you ask me.
Yeah. I know you say that a lot, and then we have partners down there,
Mhm.
and they're always saying like, yeah, it's really bad down here.
Mhm.
My background is so weird. I keep disappearing, but it's like it's how horrible it is down there. So please make sure y'all pay attention to that. I'm gonna say his name again. Trey Reed was
Mhm.
murdered in Mississippi, and we need to make sure that we keep amplifying that. The last thing is the upcoming election. We do have an election coming up in November, and one of the things that we want to highlight is what's going on with the Supreme Court judges. So Pennsylvania is one of just the 7 states that selects all judges in partisan elections. Because of this, we do have an opportunity this year to reshape the our judiciary, and justice on is on the ballot this year. So asking people to vote yes on November 4th. When the question comes up about our judges, and we'll put the exact question within the comment section so people can see it. But we haven't heard a lot about this. Some people understand that this is on the ballot this year and it's vital. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court is the final say on a lot of things from fair districts, elections, workers' rights, housing rights, healthcare, education, environmental protections, a lot of things. So
Mhm.
we want to make sure that we vote yes when the question comes up about, retaining the Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices.
Yep.
Like I said, they play a crucial role in the things we do here in Pennsylvania. So make sure that people are voting yes to that, and that there's an election November 4th, because we had the primary, which was in May, and now we have the general election. So with this election, anybody can vote regardless of party, because it's a general election, and PA has a closed primary. So during the primary, you can only vote for your particular party. So
Yep.
wanted to get that out there as well. November 4th is the election. Make sure you vote. Voting is not the only way, but it is one way
Mhm.
to be civically involved and to make a difference. Once again, not the only way, but it is one way. So make sure you vote on November 4th. Make sure you're paying attention to the question about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So yeah, that's it. I don't think it's too bad today.
Yeah. We
What too
did good.
it is today. Thank you, Tiffany, for coming on.
Bye, everybody.
All right. So, hello, everyone. I want to take a minute and introduce Courtney Tompkins. She is one of TAG's chapter members, and I've known Courtney for a while. And we started to work together when her daughter was killed in Atlanta for simply crossing the street. Quenisha Ball. We want to make sure that we say her name so we can honor her. But her daughter was killed, and even prior to that, for the police stuff, we were kind of
Mhm.
working together. So
Mhm.
Courtney lives in McKeesport, and she's had some negative experience with the police department. So that was our initial involvement. Um, Courtney was involved with the lawsuit that we filed after the police terrorized us after one of our officers was shot, and that work continued with Quenisha. So we had went to Atlanta to raise some hell. in
Mhm.
regards to pedestrian awareness. And within our chapters, we have community action plan goals we work on. And one of those goals that Courtney has been adamant about is pedestrian awareness. So we wanted to do this podcast to give our chapter members the opportunity to talk about the work they do in the community and some things they're concerned about. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Courtney. Just kind of
Mhm.
introduce yourself and tell us the work you do with Q's Cares.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fawn, for having us on. Me on, I should say. I am the founder of and president of Q Cares Foundation, which was founded a little bit out of pain, I should say, of losing my daughter, Quenisha Lachey Ball, which was killed November 17th, 2022 in Atlanta. Quenisha actually lived here in McKeesport all her life until she was 29, and she made a big move to Atlanta, and she worked for Emory Cancer Institute. So on her regular journey to work to catch her Emory work shuttle, a distracted driver hit and killed
Mm-hmm.
Quenisha and left her to die on the 7-lane highway. And the process of that was, I knew in my head, and I knew my daughter, she was very responsible. She did not leave McKeesport or Pittsburgh to go all the way down to Atlanta and get hit by a car, and not be, not lose all the things she learned and tools to learn how to cross the street, to catch a bus, responsible. So responsibly. So I knew something was wrong because when I say they, the firefighters and
Mm-hmm.
the EMTs and the police had told me the driver stayed and he did not. So a couple months later, I had received the body cam and learned that all was not true. The driver did not stay. He went 2 miles down the road, and that just a lot of things just came untrue to me. So through all that, I knew I had to make a change to bring awareness, and started Q Cares for that, not just for my daughter. Brittany
Mm-hmm.
Glover was also a young lady who was hit and killed and left to die in Atlanta, but for the many of pedestrians across this nation, because it's happening to them, and no one is being held accountable. And I think that's because of the lack of enforcement and the lack of bias when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to uh, pedestrians being killed.
Yeah.
And also through the research it showed me that the intersections between the Black and Brown community
Mm-hmm.
to other race when it comes to pedestrian accountability. You're going to have different coverage, different resources when it comes to the Black and Brown community, or the low income in
Mm-hmm.
community as well. You're not going to get that media coverage. You're not, like I said, you're not going to get the resources. Those
Mm-hmm.
are not out there. So Q Cares is trying to fight for that, to get those resources for therapy. We all need therapy. That's not there for you. Even resources, just the support from the community is different
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that. And that makes a huge difference to be
Yeah.
able to have an outcome of justice. We have to fight harder, the Black and Brown community.
Mm-hmm.
If this was a different race, you know, they will come out. You don't have to fight for them to come out for you. They're going to be your voice for you, if it's a different race. But when you're in the Black and Brown community, you definitely have to like search. And that's why I feel it takes so long for any kind of justice to come, for anybody to listen to you
Yeah.
about it, because they don't see it as violence.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see it as violence. It would be kind of like domestic violence, right? When the domestic violence was happening, you had to be quiet about that,
Mm-hmm.
or you would be shamed, especially if you was married. So I had to look at that and say, well, I think I can make a difference through Q
Mm-hmm.
Cares with that, because we just have to keep at it and keep at it and keep educating and find spreading the word that pedestrian violence is violence. My child was dismembered. Other people has serious injuries that they can't come back from.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they're alive, they just can't come back from that injury. That's violence. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
different form of violence.
Yes.
And I'm trying to fight for society to understand that
Mm-hmm.
pedestrians matter, no matter what color you are.
Yes.
There should be resources for them from the door,
Mm-hmm.
just like any other
Yep.
violence.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, that's like communicating with the Center for Crime Victims.
Mm-hmm.
They have a fund that helps people with gun violence, domestic violence, but there's nothing there for
Yeah.
pedestrian violence. And everybody can't afford a headstone either.
Mm-hmm.
So none of those programs are for someone who loses their loved one through car violence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the keys that we want to help other people with. Another one is to help the community and the leaders to understand is when you bring a business in,
Mm-hmm.
we can't just bring them in for just profit. We have to make sure that they're understanding the safety regulations that we would like them to have as well. We can build all we want, but if there's no safety routes for the people to get to the store and they're losing their life, we're really not investing in the community. We're just investing into that store. And a perfect example will be down here in McKeesport, where a Rite Aid was. Now, the Rite Aid, I feel, had not as much foot traffic as the dollar store that they're putting there now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because Rite Aid was just a little expensive,
Mm-hmm.
for maybe a lot of people in our community. Um, Now they're putting a dollar store there. So that means more foot traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we ain't already had so many people lose their lives and
Yeah.
have accidents there. So what's the plan for that? So that's what the community needs to be involved in. Okay, Mayor Sharepko,
Mm-hmm.
when you invested and asked the Dollar Tree to come in, did you thinking about the many lives that were lost and many lives that were injured
Yeah.
at that intersection? That now there's going to be more footwork coming to that Dollar Tree. What's the
Mm-hmm.
plan?
Mm-hmm.
What's the plan? So that's what I'm trying to connect with the leadership, city council, the mayor, and educate myself also through other programs like Big Bike Pittsburgh, Point
Mm-hmm.
Breeze organization, going to the Zone 2 safety meetings in Squirrel Hill to educate myself, get the knowledge from them, to be
Mm-hmm.
able to bring that back to our community so we can connect to know, can we put a bike lane there? Can we put other signs? What can we do at that intersection so we can save lives? Because
Absolutely.
this is the vulnerable. There, you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
senior citizens crossing over
Yep.
from Shop and Save, going to the Dollar Tree because that's what they can afford at this time. So, what are we doing to make them safe?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my goal to work with now with hopefully the city, um, and just leave a pathway to save lives, to make people feel they're safe. They don't have to be scared crossing that, how, because that's a highway. That's,
Yeah.
that's a highway crossing there. Even to get to Eaton Park, you're limiting people to be able to get where they need to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happening in this McKeesport community because a lot of transportation is being taken out for them. They're
Mm-hmm.
being forced to get an Uber. Now you can't even get an Uber now because Ubers, if something's going on, Ubers are raising the prices
Yeah.
for our low income community, right? So you're raising those prices. Now you're forcing them to do a share. So I got in a share, and it was a older Caucasian man. He had one leg, and he was like, "Yeah, I went to Olympia and I went shopping, but I had to get an Uber, but I could not afford to pay $14 from Olympia back to the McKeesport Tires, so I had to get in the share, and it stopped 2 times before it dropped me off. So you're inconveniencing people
Mm-hmm.
because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
They can't
And just
afford it.
mm-hmm. I would say just to let the viewers know that what we're talking about right now is our hometown of McKeesport, and there is an intersection along is that Fifth,
Yes,
along
yeah.
Fifth Avenue. The Eden Park is down there. Right, Rite Aid was there. There's been a couple things there, but the Shopping, Saving, Eden Park have been there the longest. And
Mhm.
along this intersection, there's been people killed crossing the street, and there's been people severely injured as
Mhm.
well. So that's been a spot for that for years. But there's been no action done in regards to, maybe putting safety things down there, more pedestrian crossing tools.
Mhm.
There's been nothing that's kind of really been done. And I love the way you're talking about violence because it's direct and indirect violence, right?
Mhm.
And a
Mhm.
lot of this indirect violence comes from the community as well as our leaders. And
Mhm.
when I say community, I mean that, we've both seen people's reactions
Mhm.
when people are killed by police
Mhm.
or guns or by other black people. Like we've seen people's reactions, and the support is different when it's
Mhm.
pedestrians.
Mhm.
We've seen that with, with working on your case. We went
Mhm.
to Atlanta and we're talking to people,
Mhm.
and they're down there dealing with cop cities,
Mhm.
and they're all into that. But when we talk about, but they're like, oh, well, it was an accident. I'm like,
Mhm.
was it really an accident? Are you asking? Or they've gotten so used to it.
Mhm.
And then the further we did the research, we seen that, Atlanta is growing, right? Everybody
Mhm.
knows that. And
Mhm.
what they're doing is they're growing, and when they're designing these streets, they're not thinking about pedestrian safety, and they're
Mhm.
just throwing shit up, and people are
Mhm.
literally getting killed just crossing the
Mhm.
street. So they're
Mhm.
not even thinking about that because they're just thinking about growing and growing, and but not thinking about the people. So it's
Mhm.
just a profit over people thing. And
Profit over
I
people.
would say we've seen that everywhere,
We're
not just
seeing it here.
everywhere. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I love
Mhm.
that you kind of brought that up because people
Thank
need to understand that
you. Mhm.
that
Mhm.
that indirect violence that comes. Like when you hear people get hit, like you got to think about their families, just like we do
Mhm.
when we see somebody get shot by the police or somebody got shot. People want to pray for them, they want to bring them food, they want to,
Mhm.
what can we do? But
Mhm.
when it comes to cars or people,
Mhm.
street pedestrians, oh well, it was an accident, and
Mhm.
these things happen, but it could be avoidable.
Yes, it's preventable. It's very preventable, and pedestrians are blamed.
Yeah.
They are blamed without even no. They're not even a full investigation. They're
Hmm.
blamed right off back. Like, do you blame somebody for getting shot with a gun? Like, it's just like a rape. The burden is in the rape victim's hands.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even though you were violated, I have to prove
Yeah.
that burden. I'm already violated. I'm already hurt. And now you want me to come and keep repeatedly saying what I'm saying. Like, I'm not telling you the truth. That's kind of how it is with the pedestrian violence, biker violence. But I feel, biker are getting hit as well, but there's still a more poor of an outcry when it comes to the biker
Yeah, I'd
community,
agree.
right? Even when we was walking on the trails
Hmm.
this time for Cornish's Walk, they were aggressive.
Yeah.
They were aggressive. So I had to say, you know what? Next year, I'm going to bring some awareness to us because everybody don't walk the trails. So to
Hmm.
let you know, when we walk the trail, we'll stay to the right. When we come back, let's stay to the left. But also, I'm going to bring awareness to the bikers. You see walkers walking.
Right.
You don't own the trail,
Hmm.
right? So they're kind of, it's cars, bikers, pedestrians. That's
Mm.
what it is. They have memorials.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That is very beautiful. The outcry is bigger because why? There's more other race riding the bikes.
Hmm.
We're not in bike races. We're not traveling to work with our bikes as often as other races is. They're doing
Hmm.
that. They can commute by a bike. What was this just last week was excuse me, was don't drive to work.
Hmm.
Don't try not to drive to work. That's kind of hard for some people.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard somebody, but it's a nice program. But in reality, people, it's hard for them.
Yeah.
But this is true. Pedestrians are at the bottom. They're at the
Hmm.
bottom, and to go back to the McKeesport intersection,
Hmm.
I want to say is a young boy. He was 15, just got hit a couple months ago, and they blamed him.
Mm.
But what I want to say about that is he's 15. If he was on a school bus, a public school bus, going to school, him getting off that bus at 15, he could have went around that bus because there was a stop sign. There would have been a stop sign to say, don't come around the school bus, right?
Hmm.
He would have got across safely. What they're
Mhm.
doing now is the public schools is not as good, or not, people are breaking their kids off.
Yep.
So now they have to get on a bus, go get
Mhm.
education somewhere else. Well, did anybody think about the safety of that? They don't
Yeah.
have the same protection. They don't have the same protection if they would have on a school bus.
Yep.
So what's the difference between the school bus and the pop bus when you have these kids up? There should be some kind of awareness to say, okay, this is a young man. Let me make sure I have maybe a stop sign, maybe something that people know not to pass the bus because people are getting off the bus.
Right. There's no signage.
No, there's none. Just say something,
Mhm.
even at the back of the bus. Please be aware of passengers getting off the bus. There could be a
Yeah.
sign. You're advertising everything else. Why are you not advertising? Please be aware of the passengers that is paying to be on this bus.
Mhm.
You're paying. So when I get off the bus, I'm hopefully that you're looking out for me, to be able to cross the street as well. It takes a village.
Absolutely.
It takes a
Absolutely.
village, and the village is being broken. And that just gave me a good idea, because now I am going to get in touch with Pat Bus, because to advertise that, you need to really advertise the safety of your passengers on this bus. They are paying.
Mhm.
They're actually
Absolutely.
paying. So until they get off that bus and across the street, you should be happy that you got the person safely where they needed to be, off the path
Absolutely.
bus.
Absolutely.
And the parents, they should advocate for that. If my child
Mhm.
has to catch this bus and the school is giving, I think this is just getting ready to happen over Clarendon. I think
Mhm.
they have to take pat buses. Did anybody think about the safety of that?
It's a
That's
walking district.
dangerous.
Yep. Because Clerton's a walking district. Yep.
Yes, that's so
This is
now they're giving
crazy.
them bus
Mhm.
passes to catch the bus. Who Okay, okay, you're doing that. Okay, so can we have crossing guards? These are still kids.
Yep.
Can we have crossing guards when they get off the pop bus to make sure they're crossing the street and getting home
Mhm.
safely at the time that maybe the school hours is? Can we do that? Can we have that at the bottom of Eaton Park at the time of when it's really busy, rush hour, where we're showing that this is when people are really at the time getting hit? Let's have some extra safety precautions down there for our
Mhm.
people. It's I think people have really came lax because of profit.
Absolutely. No,
Because of
absolutely.
profit. Oh my
Mhm.
God, there's a Dollar Tree. They're more excited about that, but you're not looking about the other um
Mhm.
things that come about that. I wasn't. I'm not sitting here saying I'm perfect. It took me to lose my daughter, to my eyes to be open of a lot of things, to pay attention, to slow down, to see where my community was going, where my foundation was going with my children. I had to recognize that, because I was so fast paced, I got to work. I got to pay these bills. Things are going up. I can't do this. So you lose your vision in your community and in your household,
Mhm. Mhm.
going to clock somebody else's clock.
Right. Right. And how?
So yeah.
I was just going to say to kind of close this out. How can people support you?
So the call to action for me would be asking everybody to stand in solidarity with Q Cares. Um, get involved at City Council. Your voice matter. If we can make a difference by being involved in changing policies and bringing programs that deal with keeping our community safe and walkable. There's programs out there, but
Mhm.
we need a village to be able to back us to bring those programs to McKeesport, to other communities as well. But I'm starting here in McKeesport, because once we beautify that and all come together, we have a safer community. We have
Yes.
a safer unity. So the first step I would say is by supporting Q Cares is showing up at your city council meetings and
Mhm.
using your voice to make change. And when we do that together, we
Mhm.
can do other. It built relationships, and it built bridges to do other things in our community. Um, and also, I'm trying to start a vision of a bike park
Mhm.
here in McKeesport, and those details will come out shortly. Um, if you support Q Cares, I feel that you will see a different community.
Mhm. That's
You
right.
would see a different community. You will be ready to do foundations here in the community.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
And that's where to start foundations, right? We don't want our traditions thrown away because a corrupt community, or a community is not united. And when we're not united, we forget our traditions.
Absolutely. And we'll be sure to put how to get in contact with Courtney in the comments
Yes.
section, as well as the news article about the young man that you mentioned, as well
Mhm.
as Brittany's story, Brittany
Yes.
Glover's story. We'll put that in the comment section as well. I want to
Thank,
thank you for coming on, Courtney. I want
thank
to let
you.
you know that I admire you,
Oh, I marry you too.
and all the work you do in the way that you use your pain, for change.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do, and I married you too, because it's helping me. I'm really learning myself. I'm growing. To be able to speak better. When I'm in front of people, so I feel I have grown from where I started at, and I'm still growing. So, and
Mhm.
I would love people to grow with me.
Absolutely, and you speak fine.
Oh, thank you.
You speak
Thank
fine. Tag. We don't do respectability politics. You speak. We just want people to speak, even if your voice is shaking.
you.
That's what people have to understand, the power of that collective voice,
Yes.
and
Amen.
and the change that it pushes. So, thank you so much for coming on. And we'll be sure to put Courtney's contact information in the chat.
Okay. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be sure to put everything that we talked about today in the comments section. And we will see you all next month.